there. General Keith Kellogg is with us now, retired three-star Army general, co-chair of the Center for American Security at the America First Policy Institute. Sir, as always, thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Vince. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
I saw you in some of the photos there, General Kellogg. Give me a sense, first and foremost, of what the events were on Monday, what your experience was there, and whether this latest scandal, quote unquote, matches up with your experience.
Yeah, thanks. And I was there. And by the way, it was a very small group. It was some of the Gold Star families who had lost their loved ones at Abbey Gate 3 years ago that day. I think there was one press writer and one press pool person there. So it was very small. It was intended to be small. There was not a huge press pool that you normally see. And he went there and he laid a wreath with three of the families individually. Went down, laid a wreath at 2 million unknown, went back up the second family, laid a wreath, went back to the third family, and laid a wreath at the 2 million unknown. Very, very respectful. Again, a very small group. Then we went down to Area 60, where he laid flowers at the grave sites of those who were buried there. You know, Sergeant G of the Marines, Sergeant Naus of the United States Army, and was very respectful. Talked to the families individually and collectively. Took pictures with them down there. And I will tell you, when I listened to Wes Clark, and I hope somebody relays this to Wes Clark, I never realized he was that stupid. I mean, for anybody to make a comment like that, it was an incredibly respectful ceremony. It was done in great taste. It was a small group. The Gold Star families were very appreciative of President Trump being there. Oh, by the way, who was missing in action was the Vice President of the United States and the President of the United States. These are the ones who caused those 13 to die. And when they brought them back on the dignified transfer at Dover Air Force Base, President Biden was there, but Kamala Harris was not. And I've been to dignified transfer ceremonies at Dover, where both the Vice President and the President were there together. So I'm actually appalled I hear statements like that. Statements like that show an absolute disrespect for the service members that died. Incredible respect by President Trump. Nobody thought there was anything to it. And I was asked this morning on a television show, did I see an incident? I said, no, I didn't. Now, maybe something happened, but I didn't see it, not where I was at. And I was standing very, very close to the president, very close to the families. I was close to him when he called, and he actually did FaceTime with the mother of Sergeant Naus, who could not make it. He was the lone Army soldier who was killed, young staff sergeant. And he spent time talking to her by FaceTime, showed her the flowers he had laid on the young sergeant's grave site. And I just thought this has been blown out of proportion, not by Republicans, but by Democrats and by the mass media who want to make something, Vince, of something that was not. For God's sake, what is wrong? What is wrong with honoring those who gave their lives for this nation? And President Trump honored them on Monday when Harris did not, and when Biden put out a message on it, didn't say a single word about it. They're the ones who helped cause that incident when they did that disastrous withdrawal. So I'm kind of holding my tongue a little bit, because when I hear people from the mass media or NPR or General Clark make absolutely disgraceful and stupid statements because they weren't there, didn't see it, didn't know what happened, I got an idea. Here's my idea, Vince, and you're going to do it later today. How about talking to the families that were affected, the Gold Star families, and give them the priority, give them the voice, and then it stops with them. And the rest of you just shut up and go sit in the corner. Well, a little bit strong, but that's kind of the way I feel.
I really appreciate those remarks. I totally agree with them, and that is the reason why we are going to talk to these Gold Star families coming up at 5:30. But General Kellogg, it makes you. I think both of us can detect that what's going on here is that the Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration, they know there is no good way to explain their failures in Afghanistan. And so they've decided instead to turn what was a decent event on Monday into a political partisan weapon by advancing a series of lies about what went down at Arlington, attempting to hurt Trump with this because they know that the American people see it and they are not pleased at all with what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did.
Yeah, and look, I've been to ceremonies at Arlington National Cemetery, been to dignified transfers when our fallen have come home. And I looked at that ceremony. Again, and it's important I say this to you, Vince, it was a small ceremony. It wasn't a great press pool of people around there. I believe there was one press pool person and one photographer, and that was it. It was a small group. But if you look at pictures of it, you could see that. And it was a very dignified ceremony. It was very well done.
Well,
it just was so frustrating to me.
And they're trying to give grief to President Trump for apparently having a photographer associated with him there to capture the images. The families have released a statement saying that they wanted the photographer there, that they invited President Trump to be there. They were very grateful he was there. And my understanding, General Kellogg, was that a lot of people actually were taking pictures. Among the Gold Star families, they were raising their cell phones and taking photos from the event because they wanted to remember it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when we went down to Area 60, where the fallen from Afghanistan and Iraq or laid to rest, they were all there taking the pictures. But here's what's more important, Vince. It wasn't just that. Here I saw a former commander-in-chief talk to these families individually, to the children that were there, to the sister of Sergeant G who was there, to a young woman who was still in a wheelchair, paralyzed from it, from a double amputee who was wounded there at Abbey Gate. He spent time individually talking to him, not with a group around him, not with a lot of cameras, not with microphones in his face, but he took time, as much time as they wanted. That was the beauty of what Trump did, and I saw it at the dignified transfers, is he let them talk to him, and then he responded to what they did, and then they took, the pictures of him. And I came out of there. There wasn't a single person out there that wasn't happy about what happened in the sense of how much respect was given to them. And I keep going back to this. Look, the President of the United States did something that presidents do. You honor the fallen. Yeah. You honor them with respect and a ceremony. And all this ancillary stuff I'm hearing, to include people like General Clark, I just thought, how stupid can you be that you would say something like that and have no understanding of it, not even talking to the families? Talk to the families. They're the ones directly affected by it, not him.
So, General Kellogg, you're a soldier. You've been alongside. You've been up close and personal with President Trump a lot of times. You've seen him at events like this one. One of the ongoing narratives that the left likes to spread is that somehow President Trump has a callous disregard for our service members. They claim that he has said, without evidence whatsoever, that he thinks that they are suckers and losers if they die in war. This is what you hear in the legacy media. They repeat it without any without any hesitation all the time. What is your actual experience with President Trump? What is his regard for service, if you could characterize it?
Yeah, two comments. One, he loves the United States military. In fact, I remember one time walking out of the White House when I was with Joe Dunford, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and Joe looked at me and said, "Man, he really believes in trusting us." And that kind of scares me, Joe, because he loves you guys so much. He may tolerate something you may not do correctly. The second thing, and I need to ask you this as a question. My wife served in combat. My daughter served in Afghanistan in combat. My son served in Afghanistan in combat. My son-in-law served in combat in Afghanistan and Iraq with the Rangers, okay? And I've served in combat. Do you think I'd really follow somebody who disrespected soldiers and sailors and airmen and Marines? Really? Do you think that? No. I've seen him up close and personal when he's been in wounded people. I've seen him at Walter Reed. I've seen him at dignified transfers in the middle of the night. When you go there and you don't talk to the people there, you listen to them, and how he gave great comfort to those that had fallen. And I said, every time I hear that, I keep thinking, man, you just don't get it. You don't understand. And secondly, and I know this is a strong word, look, when people say something like that, they're nothing more than liars, because I've seen it close and personal. Ask the Gold Star families there. Vince, today, ask the Gold Star families how they were treated by the President of the United States, former President, and listen to them. Don't listen to people who've never been around and weren't there, weren't next to him, never saw it. That's what I would say.
Yeah, my impression is that by becoming President of the United States and serving in that role, that President Trump developed a very deep appreciation for the service members that he encountered and who had to heed his orders as Commander-in-Chief. That's always been my impression. Is that yours, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's always had a big respect for it, but he even got to see it even more when he used to travel around with them and see what they were doing and the tough missions they had to do. And
Yeah.
remember, he's as commander in chief, he's the one who had to order him to a fight. You know, when he's the commander in chief on Article 2, Section 2, that's his call, and he knew exactly. And he knew when he put troops in harm's way what it meant. And the respect he always showed, it was always there. And that's probably one of the reasons, you know, the hair on the back of my neck goes up when I hear this, because it's so not true. And I've seen it, and I mean, you hear some of these very left-leaning veterans organizations say that. I said,
Yeah.
the only thing I can say, Vince, and I know it's strong, when I said, you know, you weren't there, you never saw him, and what you're saying is a lie, you're fabricating a lie. He's never done it, ever. He never said what's been reported to him. He's always had incredible respect for the men and women in uniform, and he's shown that repeatedly. And I'll stand by that to my dying day. And nobody can, you know, I challenge people. You can't challenge my record, my combat record. I've been there and seen that and done that.
Yeah.
I've been to enough, you know, I've been enough to funerals in my life. I don't need to go to any more. But I have tremendous respect for what President Donald J. Trump did on Monday and what he's done before.
General Kellogg, I'm not sure if you're dialed in on the logistics that led up to this event or not, but I am curious. You know, I found it interesting because of how petty the Biden administration has been with so many of its resources when it comes to politicizing everything. I did react with a little bit of shock Monday morning when I saw that President Trump was there for that wreath laying, because I thought, man, this is the kind of thing the Biden administration definitely does not want happening. Their view is they control that federal territory. That's Arlington National Cemetery. They would do everything they could to stop him from being there. Do you know, if any, how challenging or what kind of obstacles may have existed to President Trump doing this in the first place?
Yeah, now this is all secondhand, Vince. I heard that they pushed back on it. The Army, pushed back on it fairly hard. They didn't want it there. And it took the Gold Star families and also congressional support, you know, Congressman Brian Mast or Michael Waltz, people like that, to basically remind, you know, the Army that the oversight of Arlington is actually done in Congress, and they had the oversight, and this was something they wanted to honor them. So I heard there was friction. I didn't see it. I didn't know it. I wasn't personally involved with it.
Yeah.
But I do know that there were some congressmen like Mike Waltz went out there, and Brian Mast, who, by the way, remember, lost both his legs in war.
Yes.
Were there, and they helped push that event to where it was at. But again, it was low key. I mean, it's important to know, there was no giant press pool. I mean, there was nobody there except some invited guests, and there was probably, Vince, I would say maybe 20 people total, and laying the wreaths other than the families. So it wasn't one of those, we're going to have a big political event, we're going to show it, we're going to show it to the entire world. It was only covered by one television network. The only television network that covered it was Fox. CNN didn't cover it, MSNBC didn't cover it, CBS didn't cover it. None of those networks covered it, even though it was the 3-year anniversary of Abbey Gate.
Yeah.
We lost 13 great Americans, and they acted with disdain as well, and they ought to be ashamed as well. But they played it, the pure politics of it. And when we walked out of there, I never thought this was going to be a firestorm. Never. We said that was a very nicely done ceremony.
Right.
Everybody felt good about it. The families felt good about it. I was on the bus, by the way, that took the families back to the visitor center and back up to Arlington to the amphitheater where their cars were. So, you know, I talked to them all the way up there, and everybody was tremendously pleased and satisfied and happy how the event went. And that was, we all thought, at the end of the day, you know, tomorrow's a new day, here's where we go. But then this thing broke, and I said, the people who are playing politics are those that are criticizing the event. And my God, Vince, I'm telling you, don't ever go there with me about criticizing an event when we honor America's fallen. They deserve every bit of recognition that they have given their full measure of devotion to this nation, and we should honor them, and we should never complain about it.
Amen. All right. General Keith Kellogg, again, retired 3-star Army General, co-chair of the Center for American Security at the American First Policy Institute. Sir, thank you for your time as always. Really appreciate it.